The shadows of Coruscant's towering spires bore witness to more than the glimmering lights and the ceaseless hum of galactic bureaucracy. Beneath the surface, hidden among the countless layers of civilization, a darker force maneuvered in secret, commanding fear and reverence alike. The Inquisitors. Often misunderstood as mere hunters of the Jedi, these dark agents held a deeper, more insidious purpose that even the Emperor's most trusted servants failed to fully grasp. Their role within the Galactic Empire's web of control extended beyond the tangible and into the metaphysical, shaping the future of the galaxy in ways that most beings could neither perceive nor comprehend. To understand the true purpose of the Inquisitors, one must delve into their origins. While Palpatine's rise marked the beginning of the Galactic Empire, the Inquisitorius was not a mere byproduct of his ascension. The seeds of the Inquisitors were planted during the final days of the Clone Wars, when Darth Sidious, behind his guise as Chancellor, began to orchestrate a contingency plan for his inevitable rule. Order 66 was but the opening act of his purge against the Jedi Order, but the Inquisitorius represented a far more refined and adaptive instrument of oppression. It was a calculated response to the limitations of brute force, a subtle and strategic arm of Sith power designed to root out not only Jedi survivors but also other threats to the Sith's ultimate agenda. The Inquisitors were trained under Vader's iron fist, but their loyalties extended directly to the Emperor. Each one had been carefully chosen, many being former Jedi themselves, twisted and broken by the dark side until they were little more than obedient tools. However, their purpose went beyond tracking down scattered remnants of the Jedi Order. Their missions often led them to ancient ruins, forgotten tombs, and arcane relics, places steeped in the mysteries of the Force. The Jedi, for all their wisdom, had only scratched the surface of the galaxy's ancient truths. The Inquisitors were sent to explore the depths. While the galaxy believed the Sith adhered solely to destruction and domination, Sidious had other, more arcane goals. The Emperor sought not merely to rule but to master the very fabric of existence. He was obsessed with immortality and ultimate control over the Force itself, both dark and light. Through the Inquisitors, he could pursue these ambitions covertly. They acted as his instruments in uncovering lost knowledge, scripts hidden by the Jedi, artifacts that predated even the Sith Empire, and technologies from civilizations long forgotten. They were seekers of forbidden truths that would grant the Sith dominion over life, death, and everything beyond. But there was more. The Inquisitors were also an experiment, a testing ground for the Emperor's theories about the nature of the dark side. Unlike Vader, who embodied sheer power and hate, the Inquisitors were varied in their strengths and weaknesses. Sidious observed how they interacted with the dark side, how their individual fears and ambitions either strengthened or weakened them. This knowledge would be crucial for Sidious's grander projects, particularly his eventual attempts to create new forms of life through Sith alchemy and cloning. Each Inquisitor was a data point in his greater experiment, and their struggles and failures fed into his ultimate design. Their search for Jedi was also strategic in another, less obvious sense. Palpatine knew that the Jedi were more than just warriors or peacekeepers. They were conduits of the Force itself, and their survival represented a potential threat to his control over the galactic balance. But more importantly, the Jedi were also the last guardians of knowledge that could counteract the Sith's rise. By hunting them down, the Inquisitors not only eliminated physical threats, but also erased the intellectual and spiritual legacy of the Jedi. Libraries were burned, holocrons were seized, and temples were desecrated under their watch. With each fallen Jedi, a piece of the galaxy's collective understanding of the Force was snuffed out. Moreover, the Inquisitors operated in the shadows, sowing fear and uncertainty. Their presence was a psychological weapon as much as a physical one. They became symbols of the Empire's omnipresence, whispers of their deeds spreading terror, even in systems they had never visited. This fear was critical to maintaining the Empire's grip on the galaxy. In the absence of the Jedi, who had once been symbols of hope, the Inquisitors represented the inevitability of imperial justice. No one was safe from their gaze, and resistance was futile. But even this is not the full picture. There were layers to the Inquisitor's purpose that extended into the spiritual realm of the Force. Sidious was deeply aware of the cosmic struggle between light and dark, and he knew that the Force itself could not be permanently unbalanced in favor of the Sith without consequences. Through the Inquisitors, he sought to manipulate this balance on a galactic scale. Their actions were not only to eliminate threats, but also to provoke the Force itself, to draw out hidden allies of the light so they could be destroyed. The Inquisitors were bait, their presence and activities designed to force the galaxy's latent champions of the Force out of hiding. In this way, the Inquisitors were a critical component of a broader cosmic strategy. By forcing confrontations, they allowed Sidious and Vader to remain in the shadows, striking only when their prey had been thoroughly exposed. This method also served to disguise the Emperor's deeper interests. While the galaxy saw the Inquisitors as tools of suppression, they were in fact instruments of Sith enlightenment, their true value lying in the knowledge and power they uncovered during their missions. Yet even within their apparent loyalty, the Inquisitors served another purpose. They were pawns in a game of Sith supremacy. The Rule of Two, the ancient Sith doctrine, dictated that there could only ever be two true Sith at any time, a master and an apprentice. However, Palpatine and Vader's relationship was fraught with mistrust. The Emperor often used the Inquisitors as a way to test Vader's loyalty, to challenge his dominance, and to remind him that he was not irreplaceable. For his part, Vader saw the Inquisitors as rivals and potential threats, further fueling his hatred and ambition. This dynamic ensured that both Sith Lords remained sharp and wary, a key factor in maintaining the delicate balance of power between them. Despite their relative power and skill, the Inquisitors were expendable by design. Sidious and Vader knew that they could not be allowed to grow too powerful, lest they challenged the Sith hierarchy. Many Inquisitors met their end not at the hands of the Jedi, but through internal conflict or as a result of deliberate tests designed to cull the weak. This ruthless system ensured that only the most capable or cunning Inquisitors survived, refining the group into an elite force while simultaneously keeping their ambitions in check. However, their story is also one of tragedy. The Inquisitors were individuals who had been broken and reshaped by the dark side. Many had once been Jedi, defenders of peace who were betrayed by their own beliefs and circumstances. Their descent into darkness was not instantaneous, but a gradual corruption, a process that stripped them of their identity and left them hollow. For all their power, the Inquisitors were prisoners of their own fear and hatred, chained to a destiny they could neither escape nor fully embrace. In the end, the Inquisitors embodied the paradox of the Sith's immense power, coupled with profound vulnerability. They were instruments of destruction and discovery, tools of oppression and enlightenment. Yet for all their significance, they were ultimately a reflection of the larger, more devastating truths about the galaxy under Sith rule, a galaxy where hope and despair were manipulated as easily as the currents of the Force itself. Their true purpose, then, was not merely to serve the Empire, but to serve the dark side's eternal hunger for control, knowledge, and dominance over all that existed. The Inquisitors' operations stretched across the galaxy, and their reach touched not only the tangible but the deeply spiritual. Their activities were more than military maneuvers. They were incursions into the very essence of the Force, a tool by which Palpatine sought to mold the galaxy's destiny. The Inquisitors were an extension of his will, yet they also served as probes, exploring the Force's darker currents and testing its limits. They became a living experiment in understanding how the Force could be bent and broken, a means of pushing the boundaries of Sith knowledge. At the heart of their operations was a chilling efficiency. The Inquisitors were masters of psychological warfare, employing fear as their most potent weapon. When they arrived on a world, they rarely attacked outright. Instead, they would interrogate and manipulate, using subtle threats and demonstrations of power to cow entire populations. Their goal was often not to destroy but to dominate, turning the people they encountered into informants and collaborators. In doing so, they ensured that even those who were spared by their blades remained under the Empire's control, bound by fear and a sense of helpless inevitability. This was a stark contrast to the Jedi, who had once inspired loyalty through their compassion and wisdom. The Inquisitors were designed to be the antithesis of the Jedi, embodying the Empire's philosophy of power and control. Yet in their relentless pursuit of order, they became a force of chaos. Entire societies were destabilized by their presence, as the fear they instilled often led to rebellion and resistance. Paradoxically, this disorder served the Emperor's broader strategy. By keeping the galaxy in a state of perpetual unease, he ensured that no single faction could rise to challenge his authority. The Inquisitors were thus both enforcers of imperial law and agents of its controlled chaos. Their missions often took them to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, to places where the light of the Jedi had once shone brightly but was now dimmed. These were the old bastions of the Jedi Order, sacred worlds like Ilum, Lothal, and Jedha. But the Inquisitors were not merely sent to destroy, they were sent to learn. Each of these worlds held secrets about the Force secrets that Sidious was eager to uncover. The Inquisitors would desecrate temples, capture ancient texts, and recover artifacts that were centuries, even millennia old. Through these discoveries, Sidious hoped to unlock the keys to ultimate power. These ancient relics were not just curiosities, they were repositories of raw Force energy. Some of them were imbued with the wisdom of past Jedi Masters, while others were dark and corrupting, tied to the ancient Sith Lords. By gathering these relics, the Inquisitors played a crucial role in Palpatine's larger plan to forge a new understanding of the Force, one that transcended the binary conflict of light and dark. Sidious envisioned a galaxy where the Sith did not merely dominate but reshape the Force itself, bending it to their eternal will. The Inquisitors' true significance lay in their dual role as hunters and scholars of the Force. They were, in a sense, archivists of destruction, preserving the very knowledge they sought to obliterate. This paradox reflected the Sith philosophy of power through contradiction. To control the galaxy, the Sith had to destroy its history, but to truly dominate the Force, they needed to understand the past in its entirety. The Inquisitors walked this fine line, erasing the Jedi from the collective memory while hoarding their secrets for the Empire's future. But there was another, darker layer to their purpose, one that delved into the metaphysical. The Emperor's fascination with immortality and the manipulation of life and death was well known. The Inquisitors, through their forays into the galaxy's hidden corners, were instrumental in his pursuit of these forbidden truths. Their missions often intersected with the realm of Sith alchemy and necromancy. They gathered knowledge about ancient rituals, explored techniques to bind and control life energy, and experimented with the dark side's power to defy death. Some Inquisitors, willingly or not, became test subjects in these experiments. Sidious viewed them as expendable tools, and their suffering was a small price to pay for his ultimate goal. The Emperor's research culminated in his secret projects on Exegol, where the Inquisitors' findings were put into practice. Their efforts contributed directly to the development of cloning technologies and the dark rituals that would later give rise to the Sith Eternal. Though the galaxy at large would never know, the Inquisitors were foundational to these dark achievements. Their involvement in these experiments also hinted at another aspect of their purpose. They were not just hunting Jedi, but were actively working to reshape the future of the Sith. Palpatine understood that the rule of two, while effective for centuries, was ultimately a limitation. He sought to create a new Sith order, one that could expand his reach across time and space. The Inquisitors were a step toward this new vision, a test of what it meant to serve the dark side without the strict confines of the Sith's traditional hierarchy. Despite their loyalty, the Inquisitors were constantly under scrutiny. Sidious and Vader were both acutely aware of the dangers posed by their growing power. The dark side was inherently treacherous, and the Inquisitors, like all Sith acolytes, were susceptible to ambition and betrayal. Sidious, ever the master manipulator, encouraged this competitive spirit. He pitted the Inquisitors against one another, fostering rivalries and ensuring that no single Inquisitor could rise too far without being cut down by their peers or by Vader himself. This environment of mistrust and competition was deliberate. It kept the Inquisitors from uniting against their masters and ensured that only the strongest and most cunning survived. Yet for all their power, they were perpetually kept on the brink of destruction, never allowed to forget their place as tools of the Sith. This ruthless culling process ensured that the Inquisitorius remained an elite force, but it also revealed the fundamental truth of their existence: they were disposable. Vader, in particular, maintained a cold detachment from the Inquisitors. While he trained them and led their operations, he saw them as lesser beings, unworthy of the true power of the Sith. To Vader, the Inquisitors were a means to an end, a way to fulfill the Emperor's orders, and a constant reminder of the Jedi's failure. Yet, in private moments, even Vader could not completely ignore the irony of their existence. They were Jedi who had turned to the dark side, much like he had, yet they would never achieve the status or power of a true Sith. Their lives were a testament to the dark side's corrupting influence, and their deaths were inevitable. For all their might and fearsome reputation, the Inquisitors were fundamentally tragic figures. Stripped of their identities and consumed by the dark side, they were caught in a web of manipulation and betrayal. They served a purpose greater than themselves, yet they could never hope to understand the full scope of the Emperor's grand design. Their fate was sealed the moment they embraced the dark side. They were destined to be consumed by the very power they sought to wield. Their legacy, however, would endure. Long after the fall of the Empire, the echoes of their actions would be felt. The knowledge they uncovered, the relics they gathered, and the fear they instilled all contributed to the dark side's lasting influence on the galaxy. In a sense, the Inquisitors were the harbingers of a new era, paving the way for the Sith's continued dominance even in the face of their apparent defeat. Their true purpose was not merely to serve the Emperor, but to serve the dark side's eternal quest for power and control. They were hunters, scholars, and pawns in a game that spanned millennia, a crucial part of the Sith's grand plan to reshape the galaxy and the Force itself. And though their names may be forgotten, their impact on the galaxy's fate would remain, a shadow stretching across time.